Here we are again, another time for Market Weekly, brought to you by Nairametrics Television. My name is Frank Fagbo. We've got a lot to talk about. What is happening regarding CBEX, and then some company results coming out as well. What is the price of crude? Brent crude, can you believe it? That Nigeria's crude oil is selling for $4 higher than the current Brent price. We're going to find out about that on this current episode. We're going to find out about that on this episode of Markets Weekly. Let's go right into the top stories. We're seeing what is happening with CBEX. That's the major conversation on the streets of Nigeria right now. A lot of Nigerians have lost a whopping sum of 2.4 billion naira in a Ponzi scheme. Now, it's a Ponzi scheme that is in the crypto sector. CBEX Crypto collapses. 2.4 billion naira lost. As a lot of investors, you call them investors, but I call them gamblers, cry out. A lot of them are crying out because one of Nigeria's rising crypto platform, CBEX, has collapsed, leaving a lot of investors in shock, and over 2.4 billion naira in digital assets unaccounted for. The platform abruptly suspended operations under the guise of technical upgrades. Thousands of users were locked out, unable to access their wallets or even initiate withdrawals. And then we're seeing that social media is flooded with complaints and legal action may be on the horizon. The collapse has reignited concerns around Nigeria's lack of enforcement, despite the 2025 SEC regulations recognizing digital assets as securities. Now, a Lagos-based trader told Nairametrics Television that he moved A Lagos-based trader told Nairametrics Television that he moved 3 million naira, and now, after moving 3 million naira to the platform, he's seeing that silence everywhere, no emails, no platform, no support. Is this the trigger that the SEC needs to finally crack down on rogue operators playing in the sector? We're going to find out about that, and we'll definitely keep you abreast as to how all of this unfolds. But I always say that make sure you stay clear of any non-regulated platform that disguises as an investment platform. Just make sure you go to the website of the Security and Exchange Commission and check and make sure that this platform is licensed by the SEC, which is the regulatory body responsible for regulating any financial institution in this country. Let's move on to some other stories. So for the first time in many years, key crude grades such as the FAAC and the Kwa Ibo are selling at a $4 premium to Brent. Now, this is driven by European refiners looking for alternatives to Russian blends in the midst of sanctions. Nigeria's FAAC blend sold at $68 per barrel as at mid-April, compared to Brent's crude, which is $64 per barrel. Now, if you look at that margin, $4 markup as regards the price of Nigerian crude. It looks like right now we're the next best thing since sliced bread as regards the crude oil. Let's move on to some other story. Even still on this story, we're seeing that a lot of experts are still believe that supply disruptions in Libya and Angola are also tightening availability. However, we're seeing that reoccurring pipeline vandalism and output volatility remains a major risk for sustaining this premium. How well can we sustain this, and how well can the market put us at an advantage? Because $4 margin is a big deal for the Nigerian economy, and you sure know that this will have a massive impact in our earnings as regards the federal government. Let's move on to some other stories. Federal allocation falls for the third straight month to 1.5 trillion naira. In March of 2025, Nigeria's federal, state, and local government shared 1.5 trillion naira, which is a 6% decline from February. Now, oil revenues dropped sharply by 185 billion naira in the midst of production hiccups and fluctuating exchange rates. VAT collections also dropped marginally by 7 billion naira. Now, the net allocations, the federal government received 376 billion naira, states received 310 billion naira, and then the local government received 229 billion naira. Now, this continuous decline could strain the public sector spending, especially for states reliant on federal transfers. And how do the states intend to cope with these particular stories? Because we're seeing that federal allocation dropping, meaning that it will definitely have a ripple effect on states and even the local governments. Let's move on to some other stories. We're seeing that corporate Nigeria spent 1.4 trillion naira on interest in 2024, up by 146%. 146%. According to compiled financials from the NGX, interest expenses from top corporates like that of Dangote Group, MTN Nigeria, BOA, Nestle Nigeria rose from 577 billion naira in 2023 to 1.4 trillion naira, not billion, but trillion naira in 2024. MTN Nigeria alone spent 405 billion, driven by increased borrowings and monetary tightening. Remember what happened last year? It was a tough year for our monetary policy. Interest rate rising to as high as 27 billion naira. Seplat Energy and even Dangote Cement and Flour also reported multi-billion naira debt servicing. That was really a tough one for corporate Nigeria, with higher MPL, which is our monetary policy rate, now around the 24.75%, and restricted access to foreign credit. Firms may face a lot of pressure on profit margins and even the dividends. How do they intend to cope? Because it's a tough one, but we're seeing a lot of shakeups as regards our MPL. It's dropped a little bit, and hopefully we're seeing that corporate Nigeria, a lot of them will benefit from reduced interest rate. Now let's move on to what is happening across the globe. Crypto markets shared $633 billion in the first quarter of 2025 as recession fears mount up. According to CoinGecko, the global coin market capitalization fell by 18.6%, down from $3.4 trillion to $2.7 trillion in the first quarter of 2024. Bitcoin dropped by 14%. Ethereum, which is the second most capitalized asset on the blockchain, dropped by 18%. Ethereum dropped by 18%, and then Solana dropped by 27% in the midst of regulatory pressures. In Africa, stablecoins now account for 43% of crypto transactions volume, reflecting cautious investors' sentiment. Because right now that we're seeing a lot of things happening in the sector. We're seeing investor sentiment and fears. The fear and greed index is tilting towards fears. As a matter of fact, analysts at Chain Analysis warn that until the US finalizes on its digital asset framework, volatility would definitely persist. Let's move on to some other stories around the market. Emerging markets sees worst trading day since 2008. Equities markets across Africa, Asia, and even Latin America fell sharply on April 15. Now, the MSCI's Emerging Markets Index down by 3.6%. It's its worst single day drop in not 10 years, but 17 years. It was triggered by Donald Trump's announcement on 14% tariff on imports from that of Nigeria, and you sure know that if Nigeria sneezes, every black country catches a cold. And also Brazil, we're seeing that happening, and emerging markets index falling. This is the worst we've ever experienced. Foreign investors pulled capital from commodities markets, dependent economies, especially commodities dependent economies, fearing the inflationary spikes that is happening in emerging markets. South Africa's JSE also fell by 3.1%, while Nigeria's NGX showed a relative resilience due to strong local participation. Let's move on to some other stories. This time around, coming in from Asia. Asia's safe haven dividend stocks lead gains in Japan, Singapore, and all of this happening in Asia. In the midst of global turbulence, investors are rotating into safe haven assets and dividend plays. Japan's NTT Docomo and Singapore's Singtel gained 5 to 7% last week. The telecoms industry and even energy and utilities are attracting inflows as global funds de-risk from tech. In the second quarter of 2025, Asian dividend stocks are expecting to outperform the MSCI World Index by 2 to 3% points. Let's move on to what is happening in the equities market. Now, the market saw a mixed cautions, rallies, and heavy sell-offs ahead of the long weekend. Here is a breakdown on how trading unfolded across the 3 sessions this week. On the Monday, the 14th of April, 2025, we're seeing that the NGX All-Share Index closed at 104,529.62 points. The daily change was seen, started on a negative note, 0.03% decline in the market. Market capitalization, 65.68 trillion naira. And then the volume was seen 428 million volume traded on Monday. Value of that volume was about 10.5 billion naira. Numbers of deals for the day, 14,583 deals. Let's take a look at some of the top gainers. Abe is among the top gainers, 6 naira 74 kobo, experiencing some 9.95% gains in the market. UPDC 3 naira 13 kobo, 9.82% gains. Guinea Insurance 69 kobo, 9.52% gains in the market. And then we take a look at what's happening. Those are the bottom of the pyramid. We're starting with International Energy Insurance, 1 naira 48 kobo, 9.76% decline in the market. Cornhall PLC, 2 naira 75 kobo, 8.33% decline in the market. Joe Paul Gold, 1 naira 86 kobo, 7.46% decline. And then we move on to what happened on the second trading day, which was Tuesday, the 15th of April, 2025. The all-share index closed at 104,560 points. The daily change, 0.03% gains in the market. Market capitalization, 65 trillion naira. Now, the volume traded, 368 million shares traded, and that was with a value of 10.8 billion naira. Now, the numbers of deals we're seeing just dropped 1,000 below what happened on Monday, 13,228 numbers of deals. We're taking a look at what happened regarding those at the top of the pyramid. We're seeing the top gainers, Abe among the top gainers, 7 naira 41 kobo, experiencing some 9.94% gains in the market. Unilever, 38 naira 5 kobo, 9.65% gains in the market. And then Len Africa, it's been a long time I've seen Len Africa featured among the top gainers. 3 naira 25 kobo, 8.33% gains. Let's take a look at those at the bottom of the pyramid. NNFM featuring among the top losers, 79 naira, 9.97% decline in the market. And then TIP, 4 naira 25 kobo, 9.57% decline, I beg your pardon, in the market. Kevatin featuring amongst the top losers, 2 naira 31 kobo, 9.06% decline in the market. We're seeing Kevatin featuring amongst top losers. Let's go on to what happened in the mid-trading day, which was Wednesday, 16th of April, 2025. The all-share index on Wednesday, 103,851 points. Percentage change for the day, 0.68% decline in the market. It was a red day for a lot of traders in the market. Market capitalization for the day, 65.25 trillion naira. Numbers of volumes traded, amount of volumes traded was saying 251 million shares valued at 13.71 billion naira. That's more than what happened in the previous day. Deals, 12,141 deals. And then we take a look at those at the top of the pyramid. Abe also featuring amongst those at the top of the pyramid. 8 naira 15 kobo, 9.99% gains in the market. This is the second time Abe is featuring for this week. Sovereigns was seeing 98 kobo, 7.69% gains in the market. And then NGX Group featuring amongst top gainers, 33 naira 80 kobo, 7.3% gains in the market. The top losers, IMG featuring amongst top losers, 34 naira 20 kobo, 10% decline in the market. Guinea Insurance was seeing 57 kobo, 9.52% decline in the market. UPDC, 5 naira 60 kobo, 8.20% decline in the market. And that's it on this episode of Market Weekly. Anyways, you're going to see what happened on the final trading day, which is on Thursday. You're going to see it live on your screen. Take a look at the top losers, the top gainers, and also look at the percentage change and the numbers of deals for the day. Look at it on your screen. And that's it on this episode of Market Weekly. From CBEX Collapse and the surging oil premiums to rising corporate debt and their burdens, we're seeing that a shakeup happened in the crypto market. Remember what happened in the crypto market, losing billions of dollars in just 1 week. It's been a week of high stakes move. Remember that the NGX closed on Thursday instead of Friday because of the holidays, due to the public holidays. So trade with caution as we enter into the new week. Let's see what happens this week as all the top market stories unfold. Hopefully, a lot of the investors like you, remain profitable in the midst of this economic uncertainty. My name is Frank Fagbo, and this is brought to you by Nairametrics Television. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you next week on another episode. Cheers.